Hello everyone and welcome to Paladins Guides. I'm your host, Guess Who, and the topic for today is 5 quick tips that can help you out as a new player in the realm. Before we jump into it, I want to take a moment and welcome you to the channel and let you know what you can expect to find in the coming weeks. I plan to make in-depth guides on the roles and for specific champions, as well as discuss the current state of the meta, and will also be providing general tips that can help you improve your ability to win games and be a better player. Without any further ado, let's kick this off with tip number 1, which is to familiarize yourself with all the items in the game and how they can benefit you in a given situation. Be sure to turn off auto buy in the settings. For example, if the enemy team are running a high CC comp, buying Resilience could potentially be the difference between life and death. The items Haven and Blast Shields can also help you survive against their respective damage types. Another little known fact is that Rejuvenate directly counteracts Cauterize. For example, if the enemy has Cauterize 3, which gives them 90% healing reduction with weapon attacks, and you have Rejuvenate 3, which gives you 30% increased healing from other players, you're cutting the effects of Cauterize by a third. This can become incredibly important when you're playing a tank, and should be something you prioritize to help your healer out. If you'd like to see a more in-depth guide on all the items in the game, be sure to stay tuned for that. Another helpful tip for beginners is to learn at least 2 roles and try to stick to the basic champions that aren't too hard to master at first. This will allow you to get the hang of the champions quickly and focus more on learning the intricacies of the game at a fundamental level. For example, if you wish to learn how to play the damage role, Victor is an easy pickup for beginners if you've played pretty much any other first-person shooter before. There are champions like this for each role, and I will go ahead and name a couple. Fernando, for the tanks, will be the easiest for you to pick up and learn quickly. For the support role, Ceres will probably serve you best early on, with her burst heals and easy escape ability. The flank role is probably the most difficult one to master, considering you have to generally put yourself in bad positions to take out high priority targets, relying on your high mobility and self-sustain to get you out of those seemingly impossible situations. The easiest flank is probably Moji or Lex. Although neither of those champions have any vertical mobility, they have the ability to hit hard and fast in order to take out those high priority targets, and they have relatively simple movement abilities. This next tip may seem like a given, but I feel it's worth saying regardless. Learn the positioning for the roles you choose to master. Try and decipher where you should be in any given situation. If you're playing an off tank, generally you should position yourself to bully the enemy backline and let the main tank sit on point. Although this is an extremely basic form of positioning, it's important to understand that everyone has a place, and if you're not doing your job and fulfilling the role that you have put yourself in, then you are possibly going to cost your team the win, or at least make it a lot harder to win than it should be. I plan to make more in-depth guides on each role individually, and will be able to give a better explanation as to where you should be positioning. Tip number 4 is an important one, and that is to make your own builds, or at the very least, get a build from someone else. Oftentimes, beginner players won't bother making builds and will just use the default loadouts, and to be frank, most of them are awful. Making your own build will do more than just let you have the best cards. It will give you a greater understanding of how the champion and talents are intended to be used. It's also a great way to utilize the champion to suit your own playstyle. Right now, you may be thinking to yourself, but I have no idea what makes for a good build. I don't know which cards are good and which ones are bad. And I have a checklist for you to use when making a build, and it consists of these 3 things. Does the build synergize with the talent that you plan to use? For instance, if you're using Victor and are using the Shrapnel talent, which increases the radius of the explosion of his frag grenade by 40%, then a card that would synergize well with that talent is Grenadier, which reduces the cooldown of frag grenade by 1 second for every enemy player hit at the base level. If you cranked it up to max level, which is level 5, then it would reduce the cooldown by 5 seconds for every enemy hit. The second thing on the list is, does the build provide you with extra mobility? Considering that mobility is one of the few ways that you can keep yourself out of dangerous situations, it is incredibly important. If your build provides you with extra mobility, then you are on the right track. The final thing to check off is that the build provides you with other means of survivability such as damage reduction and extra health. General damage reduction is going to be the strongest form of survivability available to you since there is no counter for it. It will always provide you with the damage reduction as long as you meet the pre-existing requirements for said card or talent, such as activating an ability or reaching a certain health threshold. Having extra health in your builds can mean the difference between getting 1 or 2 shot or not, so be sure to test out your options and see what works best for you. The final tip that I have for you as a new player is the most important one, and that is to have fun and improve on yourself. You won't get any better at the game if you are unable to recognize your own mistakes. After each death, ask yourself, what did I do wrong that got me killed there, instead of blaming your healer for not healing you. This can help you grow by leaps and bounds. The ability to self-reflect and simply understand what you did wrong instead of blaming your teammates can truly help you to become a better player in general and an overall better person. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope that you found these tips to be helpful. Be sure to stick around for future videos as I plan to make in-depth guides on champions, items, builds, and the meta. If you have any suggestions or requests, please leave me a comment down below and I will do my best to help. If you have interest in finding people to play with, or you just want to have a conversation, consider joining our Discord, which is completely devoted to Paladins and helping each other grow. You can find a link in the description below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.